Since I did a brief retrospective on the history of Swamp Thing in order to honor the passing of his creators Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson, I figured I might as well review a movie based on their creation. I would do his first film, but I've talked enough about that previously, and its sequel is known to be extremely horrible. Seriously? His first film was bad, but there's people that think that the sequel is one of the worst films ever. Come on, the film can't be that bad, right? The film begins in darkness as Swamp we're greeted by the film's title via Comic Sans lettering. Oh, so it's gonna be that level of movie, isn't it? Anyway, a group of annoying hunters are being hunted by something. After something that resembles Man-Thing takes out two of them, the other three start shooting at the water even though the monster is standing above it. Aim higher, guys. When that doesn't work, they make a run for it and two of the guys meet the welcome wagon. I think the lady killed them, but the gunshot sound effect was pathetic. It sounded like a baby's hand was getting slapped. Just as the last guy is about to be taken out by some Lovecraftian monstrosity, Swamp Thing saves him.
Swamp Thing, you are amazing.
Okay, based on the first 8.5 minutes, I can tell this movie's gonna be campy, but I do have to give the filmmakers credit for incorporating the Swamp Thing comic book panels into the opening credits. Plus, the opening theme song is fun and makes sense, seeing that this film takes place in the Florida swamps, even though the song mentions the Louisiana Bayou. Anyway, well, after that, we meet Abby Arcane, played by Heather Locklear. Oh, come on, movie. You're not even trying anymore. And we're barely 10 minutes in. I mean, really? Really? Heather Locklear? Okay, I'm not going to go on and go into how the characters in the film aren't how they were portrayed in the comics. Yet. On with the movie. Abby is this movie's love interest for Swamp Thing. During her first scene, I thought she was talking to her co-worker about her man troubles. Nope. She was talking to the plants, which she all gave name tags for. She's also imagining them answering her back. Huh? We then skip to this movie's villain Anton Arcane's residence where in the basement he's having gene splicing experiments done on people. Remember the hunters from earlier? They're here. I guess they didn't die. I have to give the film credit. While it's a cheapie, I do like the makeup effects so far. I really like the creativity of the creature designs as well. At the start of the film, we had a Cthulhu-looking monster, and now we have a elephant side-faced guy who looks like a cross from Sloth from the Goonies meets the Elephant Man, and a cockroach-faced man. What other creatures will we see in Anton's Unmen later on, I wonder? Wait, are they killing the Roach Man with an industrial-sized bug zapper? Well, after a visit from the local sexist hick sheriff who wants the female doctor to examine him, if you know what I mean, we see Abby in a car, cab, limousine thing going somewhere driven by either a black southern country stereotype or a country Mexican portrayal. I can't tell the difference in this film. Abby arrives at the Arcane estate and it seems Anton has something sinister in mind for her. I'd say it's not going to be anything sexual, but I do remember that scene from issue 29 of the comic book. So, yeah, anything can happen here. Abby, it turns out, is Anton's stepdaughter. It seems her mother disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Gee, I wonder who was behind it. Anton's assistant and Abby do a little back and forth, and I can't remember what was being said because Abby's outfit is ridiculous. With that grade school looking church dress and those stockings, she looks like a sexy schoolgirl lowly. How old is she supposed to be in this film again? Later on, Anton and his assistant are having a very suspicious discussion about aging while a painting of himself is spying on him like a creeper. Foreshadowing, perhaps? We did get introduced to this film's annoying kid characters. I don't know why I'm more disappointed in the fact that this film is apparently now aimed at kids or the fact that none of their porn they're looking at has any nudity in it. Well, they get interrupted by that Lovecraft monster from earlier, but get saved by Swamp Thing. It's about time. It's been 20 minutes since his last appearance. After an explosive finale, the monster jumps into the swamp while still on fire. This feels like a callback from Swamp Thing's origins. After this, Arcane orders his men to search for Swamp Thing. Question: what purpose did that previous scene have? Was the monster just supposed to scare the kids or bring them back for experimentation? The next night, Anton sets up a ridiculously elaborate way to get Abby's blood for his experiment. Abby escapes and makes a beeline for the swamp, only to run into a couple of creepy bored hicks discussing on what they want to do tonight.
Chief, mate, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Fortunately, she's saved by Swamp Thing. I admit, I'm surprised he reappeared this soon. So far, he appears every 20 minutes. Afterwards, he tells Abby his origin in flashback. Was it really a good idea to show clips from the first film? That footage alone must have cost more than this entire film did. Okay, Swamp Thing seems to be a pretty chill dude, but shouldn't Abby be terrified of him? She's just reacting to him like he's a block of wood or a plant. Well, that escalated quickly. After a chase where either the most cheesily awesome theme music or the most awesomely cheesy music is played, Swamp Thing is taken down at the swamp, during which one of the henchmen says, "Is this the end of Swamp Thing?" Nah, there's still 46 minutes left in the film. Later on, Abby is taken into Anton's secret lab and she annoyingly complains. Personally, I wouldn't mind if Abby had an accident and left this film altogether. Later that night, one of Anton's scientists tells him that his body is going to deteriorate in 3 days unless he gets a donor. The only match is his head of security and the doctor he's been boinking. Unfortunately, once the donor gives up the goods, they die. Oh look, the female doctor overheard the plan. Whoops. Meanwhile, the sludge remains of Swamp Thing float into Casa Arcane. Why is it sparkling? I didn't know that Swamp Thing was radioactive. Wait, why is the indoor water green? Is Swamp Thing going to reconstitute in the tub while the lady is taking a bath? Ew. Abby is able to escape by tricking a Honey guard and with the help of the female doctor giving her the car keys. You know, she could have just left with Abby. Heck, there could be a spinoff. I can see it now. It could be a supernatural Thelma Louise. Plus, the film studio wouldn't have to worry about getting sued since this film came out 2 years before Thelma and Louise. Anyway, Swamp Thing finally pulls himself together in the bathroom. As you do. Abby gets captured, but Swamp Thing pops out and saves her. Wait a minute, did they just recycle the tumbling footage? Well, anyway, they escape. It just seems weird to see Swamp Thing driving a Jeep when you know you can just travel via foliage. Alright, cheap film. Ah crap, the kids are back and they're planning something. Oh good, they're gone again. We get a scene with Abby and Swamp Thing where she makes him his boyfriend. It's here where we get the worst, best line of the film.
Me? Your boyfriend?
Why not?
You said it yourself. I'm a plant.
That's okay. I'm a vegetarian.
Okay, I'm questioning Abby's sanity here. She gets love advice from plants. She wants to bone a plant man only after about a day of knowing him, and she has a very questionable fashion sense. The Abby in the comics was kind, empathic, and was also strong when she needed to be, and she also had a bit of a self-esteem problem. She had layers. This version of Abby is... She wasn't whatever Heather Locklear is doing here. Also, the Abby in the comics rocks the reverse Bride of Frankenstein hairdo. Swamp Thing and Abby both take a bite of his thing and imagine having sex with each other, or at least making out. He's in his human form. Man, I bet actor Dick Dirk was glad to be out of the suit for at least a few minutes. Arcane's very put upon assistant very lazily does something, when then, for some reason, we go back to the kids again. They want to get a picture of Swamp Thing and sell it. After some inane dialogue between the lovebirds, the annoying kids return again. Will someone please take out these kids? Oh, well, that was quick. Thank God there's only 25 more minutes to go. Unfortunately, Swamp Thing saves the kids with the help of a bat. He has plant powers, but nah, a bat should be sufficient. Question: the kid called him Swamp Thing. How does he know his name? No one told him.
Swamp Thing's kicking some butt.
Well, Abby gets kidnapped. Again, this leads to Abby being used as a trap for Swamp Thing. It's here where Arcane delivers the best line of the movie.
Immortality. You're sick. sold to the devil?
Let's just say he has a lease with an option to buy.
Elsewhere on Casa de Arcane, the two security people are getting off, showing each other their scars. Wait a minute, I remember a scene like this in Lethal Weapon 3. Meanwhile, Swamp Thing is making his way through security. While that's happening, Arcane is, absorbing the essence of Abby, I think. Well, looks like she's dead. Next, Swamp Thing has a brief confrontation with the head of security. Question: I assume he pilfered one of the security officers of their grenades, but where was he hiding it? Both of his hands were empty. He wasn't carrying it where I think he was carrying, was he? Ew. Back in the lab with Abby dead, even though Heather Locklear is noticeably breathing, Arcane finds out that Lana, the female doctor, switched the vials.
You switched the vials. You switched the vials.
He takes it pretty well, all things considering. Swamp Thing finally arrives and he has a fight with the newly transformed Big Brain Doc. Well, actually, he just tosses him around and finishes him off in the Big Bug Zapper. The security chief appears again. Why isn't he dead yet? Oh, now he is. Well, with the mansion about to explode, Swamp Thing takes Abby and then he and Arcane just stare at each other for a moment and then kaboom! Nice explosion. You know, if the film were to end right here with Swamp Thing carrying out a dead Abby in a silhouette, this would have been an awesome finale. But we still have 8 minutes to go. Unfortunately, Swamp Thing gives some of his Deus Ex Machina sparkly stuff to Abby and she's right as rain. No, don't bring the kids back. Huh. So she's turning to a female Swamp Thing then? I actually wouldn't mind if the film ran a few more minutes just to see how she ends up. The film ends with an image from the comic book. Odd how they cast someone who looks nothing like Abigail, but the last image isn't from the movie version, but from the comic one. Wait, no. Yes, this film has an after credits scene. The kids argue about how there isn't any film in the camera, so no Swamp Thing pic. And then the film ends again. Why was that needed? Well, at least the film ends with the opening song Born on the Bayou being played again. This film was a sequel to the 1982 original that was directed by Wes Craven. That film was a drama with horror elements, and while it was a loose adaptation, it was okay. It wasn't really good, but you could tell a lot of people were working on it really hard and they took the source material seriously. Well, more seriously than the sequel that came out 7 years later. This film has useless and pointless characters, an overly campy and silly tone as well, intentional and unintentional bad acting, questionable at times effects, and I'm not sure, but I think the makers of this film didn't either 1, read the source material, or 2, watch the previous film. I see some continuity errors sprinkled throughout this film. That said, there were some good things in here. For example, the opening. The opening song, Born the Bayou, playing over the panels from the Swamp Thing comics sucked me in. Even the pre-credits scene was a bit comedic, but it did have a horror feel to it. The thing is, the opening didn't make sense considering the tone of the film. It would have made more sense if that opening was played in front of the first film, which had just only a cold open. Actors Dick Durock and Louis Jordan were great in their roles as Swamp Thing and Anton Arcane. Even though Dick Durock was in most of the film, he did come off as likable. Also, it was nice to see that they decided not to have him being a sulking, depressed hero because of what happened to him in the first film. Now, Louis Jordan as Anton Arcane, he was enjoyable. He had a very comedic but menacing presence to him. I kind of wish he played Arcane in the TV series though. Now, all things considered, the makeup and special effects were pretty good. They were creative. And even though this was a cheapie, you didn't always feel it in certain scenes, like whenever something exploded or with the designs of the different mutants or unmen. As far as the comedy goes, once I accepted that this was going to be a comedic film, it did work at times. There were some very deliciously hammy readings of some lines. As far as the bad things, the hammy acting, it didn't always work, and also I would put Heather Locklear's wooden acting among them. Most of the acting is good, but whenever she had to act with someone, it was painful. Also, her character of Abigail was useless most of the time. The only time she did anything in the film was when she gave Swamp Thing the keys to the Jeep and when she shot a gun at a couple of times. Having characters also pop up without introducing them was also a problem. Once again, another example would be Abby when she first pops up. No one says her name. Then Anton Arcane. No one says his name. If you didn't watch the first film, then you wouldn't know who he was until a little while later. The only reason why I knew it was him because I saw the previous film and I knew that Louis Jordan was playing the same character in both films. Another problem I had was after the first 10 minutes, the film doesn't do a good job of explaining things, such as who someone is when they first appear, or why they're doing what they're doing, or where they're going, and why. Also, this is a man in a rubber suit type of film, and even though the suit looks good, it just seemed like the Swamp Thing character isn't fully realized. The cheapness of the film means that we can't see Swampy in all of his glory. He has multiple powers even back then, and that would make for a more exciting film, but instead all he really does is just punch or throw people around. Another problem I had was the kids. They add nothing to the film, and I can only assume the only reason they were there was to make sure the viewer knew that this was a kiddie film. While I like the portrayals of both Arcane and Swamp Thing, they never really interacted with each other. The only interaction, if you call it that, was during the climax, and they didn't say anything to each other. All they did was just look at each other. They never even fight. Arcane is Swamp Thing's #1 villain and nothing happened. Also, the film acts as if Arcane is dead at the end, except I think he succeeded even though he didn't get the right bow. He sucked away all of Abby's essence, so he should still be immortal now, right? Also, I think that junk that he had was Alec Holland / Swamp Thing's blood. So it's a mess. One final negative. This film isn't even 90 minutes long, but it felt like it was padded. Some examples of some stretched out scenes would be Arcane playing the piano for several minutes and then just watching the Swamp Thing sludge just float. Also, whenever the kids kept popping up. Now that being said, however, I do recommend this film. This film is bad and it's a bastardization of the source material. However, it does have a huge amount of cheesy fun. The special effects were better than they have any right to be. The actors, with exceptions, were good and committed to the material given to them. It would have been nice if this were a horror film or a more dramatic one like the first film, but we didn't get that. I had a feeling before seeing this film years ago that it would be something like this. Once I saw the cover of the video and it had that picture of Heather Locklear on it. What's interesting about this film is the producer had the rights to it, but also had the rights to Batman. So while Return of the Swamp Thing bombed in 1989, he made a killing with every single Batman film since 1989. Now that Warner Bros. Has decided to do something with their DC comic properties, there's still talk that Swamp Thing will appear in the proposed Justice League Dark film. If that film actually happens and Swamp Thing becomes popular enough, hopefully he'll get his own film again. And hopefully it will be more reflected to the source material than what happened here.
Just one more thing.
Hey, Omar, look at how the plastic cup acts like a boat in the water.
Daryl, you jerk, you're gonna get us in trouble for littering.
Ah, big deal. A plastic cup never hurt anything, did it?
Littering always hurts, Daryl.
Swampy!
You kids know that plastic lasts hundreds of years when thrown into the environment.